Hello, listeners. This is Kat. Welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfic. This will be the continuation of Little Acts of Kindness. This will be Part 12, Chapter 12, entitled Trust. Izuku was waiting when the knock at the door came, and he leapt up, saying goodbye to his mom as he exited the apartment, smiling at Mike-sensei, who grinned back. "How are you today?" the teacher asked. "I'm doing good," Izuku answered. "That's great," Mike said as they walked down the stairs. "How are you?" Izuku asked, feeling comfortable enough around the teacher that he felt he could speak up a bit. Mike beamed. "I'm doing wonderful. I managed to get Sho to sleep the entire night as well, instead of staying up working. Don't tell him I said this, but the man is like a nice, cuddly cat." Izuku chuckled a bit, even as he got into the vehicle. Next to his seat he found a jelly packet, and in the cup holder a beverage. "We stopped by a coffee shop on the way and decided to pick you up a hot chocolate," Aizawa said, moving one bandaged arm to gesture towards the front cup holders, which had 2 cups. Thank you," Izuku said, a warm feeling in his chest. "It's no problem, little listener," Mike said with a large beaming grin. Izuku picked up the beverage and tentatively sipped at it. Finding it the perfect warmth, he started drinking it down, putting the jelly packet into his pocket for later. They arrived, and Mike-sensei carried the 3 beverages as Izuku needed his hands for the crutches. They went to the classroom, and Mike placed the beverages down, one on Aizawa's desk and another on his own. "I'll see you later. Don't forget that after school today you have a checkup with Recovery Girl." "We know. We'll be there," Aizawa responded. Mike chuckled, leaning down and giving his homeroom teacher a quick kiss. "Even if she heals you, you're not escaping commenting in the booth with me." Aizawa groaned. "Don't remind me." "Too late. Besides, you shouldn't have lost the bet," Mike said, laughing as he stood back up and walked out of the room. A little while later, and Ida came in, blinking as he saw Aizawa and Izuku both drinking from the same containers. "Are you arriving together?" Ida asked. "Yes. Due to our injuries, Mike has been picking us up and driving us to our homes," Aizawa answered, not even looking up from his coffee. "Oh, that explains why Midoriya has not been on the train this past week." Soon more students came into the room, and the bell rang, signaling the start of the day. Homeroom passed, and soon it was English, and partway through the lesson he remembered he had the jelly packet. He pulled it out, glancing to see it was yet another new flavor. This time it was musket. He opened and tried it, no one paying any mind, as they were allowed to have snacks in class so long as it wasn't a distraction. Which basically meant nothing. That would make too much noise. Soon the lesson came to an end, and next they had an art history lesson with Midnight, and the day continued on through the normal classes. Modern literature lesson with Cementos, followed by math with ectoplasm, and finally it was lunch. Izuku started towards the cafeteria, but he didn't feel that hungry, and didn't want to deal with the noise. So he decided that lunch would be a good opportunity to start exploring the vents, walking away until he found an empty hall. He shifted his crutches underneath one arm as he pulled out his phone and opened the app. He found where he was and clicked on the hallway he was in. It zoomed in and revealed there were 2 access points, one on the wall and one from the roof. He walked to the one in the wall and double-checked no one was nearby as he double-tapped the button and walked into the vent. After he did that, he put his phone in his pocket, deciding to just walk around. He shifted his crutches again to have one under each arm, as it was easier to move that way. Slowly he made his way through the vent, doing his best to keep quiet. That was how Aizawa found him 5 minutes later, the man walking through the vent silently. "Hello, Midoriya," the teacher greeted. "Aizawa-sensei," Izuku responded. "Did you already finish lunch?" I wasn't hungry," Izuku answered. The teacher nodded. "Follow me." So Izuku followed, as they went through twists and turns in the vents. Then they arrived in a large vent room, this one different from the one that had an elevator. This one had a fridge, a TV, and 3 beanbags, a yellow one, a white one, and a green one. "Nezu already brought you in a beanbag," the teacher said, nodding toward the green beanbag as he took a seat on the yellow one. "In the fridge are some snack foods." Wow, Izuku said in awe as he sat on the beanbag. "But why is all this in the vents?" "Why not?" a chipper voice said from behind Izuku, and Izuku flinched, startled. Izuku shrugged, not having an answer to that. He shifted a bit closer to Aizawa as he looked at the principal. "You're quite an interesting student. Your written scores on most of the tests wasn't anything special, but on the portion that required you to analyze for strengths and weaknesses of a given opponent, you excelled, with the highest score ever received on that portion of the test. And then I read your journals." Nezu grinned, his pure black eyes gleaming. "I feel your skills would be useful and should be honed. So you'll be having lessons with me on occasion. Our first lesson will be next week. Don't worry about the time or place." With that, the principal left. How did he read my journals? Izuku questioned. I never brought them here. Aizawa sighed. He probably broke into your home at one point then. Izuku's mouth fell open. Isn't that illegal? It's Nezu, Aizawa responded, as if that explained everything. He found my skills useful and taught me how to use the vents. He can be a bit long-winded at times, but his lectures generally have some useful information hidden in them. Izuku frowned a bit, not sure what to think of the principal. Lunch will be ending soon. We better get you back to class before the others arrive, Aizawa said after a few minutes of silence. Aizawa stood up, and Izuku did as well, carefully hobbling after him. They arrived above a vent grate, and Aizawa peered down, seeing the empty room. Mind the drop in here a moment. Also, the password for all the vents is the same. Dataless, Aizawa said in a quiet voice as they dropped down into Class 1A. The password is useful for when you know where vent access is and need a quick entrance. Or if you're dropping down through a vent grate, you just need to whisper the password and it'll open up. Besides that, the password is so uncommon, it'll also only open up for those who have access to the vents, which is just us and Nezu at the moment. The teacher informed him. Perhaps it was the way the two sat in a comfortable silence, or that the teacher had been so understanding, or even that Aizawa had shared the secret of his relationship with Mike with him, or how the teacher had leapt right into danger to save all the students. But Izuku found that he trusted Aizawa. He trusted that a teacher wouldn't hurt him, that Aizawa would help him. It was a startling realization to know just how comfortable he was with the teacher. He had never felt comfortable with the teacher before. He hated being alone in rooms with them, even before that final year of Alderan. The bell showing the end of lunch rang, and the students started returning to the classroom. Izuku winced as he heard their chattering, a dull throb in his head spiking painfully, and he felt a headache come on to him. It started as just a dull throb, but steadily seemed to get worse, becoming an unrelenting ache that seemed to center itself behind his eyes, which itched, and he kept rubbing at them. He saw a worried glance from his classmates throughout the lesson, from his constant shifting. Midoriya, do you need to go to the nurse's office? Yaoyorozu questioned. I have an appointment after classes already for a check-in, Izuku responded, wincing as his head pounded. Are you sure you don't want to go early? Izuku nodded, and Yaoyorozu returned to working on the assigned work, a quiz over the different rules the various types of heroes had to obey. Class ended, and Aizawa was soon by his side, helping him to the nurse's office as Izuku squeezed his eyes shut, trying to resist the urge to rub at them again. They arrived, and Recovery Girl's voice startled him. She was asking something about how they were feeling, and Izuku heard Aizawa speak up for him. Midoriya developed a headache after lunch. It got worse throughout the lesson. Seems to be among migraine levels. He soon found himself sitting down and Recovery Girl checking over him. Can't find anything obviously wrong. It's probably just a normal headache. Here, dearie, some pain medication to help. He took the pills and then drank the offered water, keeping his eyes closed as he felt her hands on him, as she carefully undid the bandages. He was tense, though he knew it was only Recovery Girl, but he also trusted that Aizawa wouldn't let harm come to him. The door opened, and he tensed. Hey, Sho, Midoriya, Mike's voice called out. Izuku didn't untense, but he also didn't open his eyes. A few minutes later, and he felt bandages being wrapped back around his chest, and one of his legs was placed back into the cast, while the other was bandaged back up. Looks like it's healing up nicely, and you might have enough stamina if you eat and sleep well that I'll be able to heal you up for the sports festival. So long as you take care of yourself, that is. Izuku didn't say anything and just sat there, waiting for the pain medication to kick in. He heard her walk away, and rustling of more bandages, and he assumed she was checking over his teacher. Izuku cracked his eyes open, wincing a bit as the light seemed to be brighter. He looked at Aizawa and saw that his face was still black and purple, bruised heavily, though the opened wound that used to be there was now scabbed over. Recovery Girl prodded gently, asking him how it felt. She checked his arms next. You're healing up decently, though I would recommend resting more. Your stamina's still low. At this point I won't be able to heal you until after the sports festival. He hissed, as his head felt like it was being put through the blender, and closed his eyes. What's wrong with the little listener? Mike asked. Seems like a migraine. I gave him some painkillers, which should be kicking in another 15 to 20 minutes, Recovery Girl informed him. All right. Midoriya, do you want to wait here for the painkillers to kick in, or would you prefer if I carried you to the car so you can get home quicker? Izuku wanted to go home and curl up on his bed, but did he want Mike-sensei to carry him, especially as he was in pain right now? Izuku couldn't bring himself to trust the English teacher that much, so he mumbled to stay here. He heard Aizawa and Mike talk quietly and slowly. As the medication kicked in, he felt the pain fade away, and he could open his eyes again, though his vision seemed to be swimming. I'm good now, Izuku said. He grabbed his crutches and hobbled out of the nurse's office with the teachers, sticking close to Aizawa-sensei. He got into the car and let his eyes slide shut again, feeling somewhat nauseous from how everything seemed to be shifting around. We're here, Mike's voice said, causing him to open his eyes again as he got out of the car and hobbled up the stairs after saying goodbye to Aizawa-sensei. He would have fallen off the stairs if it wasn't for Mike steadying him out, spiraled green eyes worried. He didn't say anything and just continued up, digging in his pocket for a key and entering the room, with a mumbled goodbye to the English teacher. Soon he collapsed onto the bed and curled up. The pain may be gone, but his vision was still shifting and blurring. He closed his eyes. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 12 of Little Acts of Kindness. Chapter 13 will be up next. Hope you all are still enjoying, and as always, thank you so much for listening.